When taking a look at any individual's life here on planet Earth, whether you are supremely wealthy or just an everyday Joe trying to get through the day, regardless, you have your demons, or better put, your paranoia. We all have our own personal issues we have to put up with in our lives, and no matter how resilient or strong you may be, most people would love to catch a break any way they can. Whether that be escapism by enjoyment of your favorite media, or just simply shifting the blame of said issues onto anything or anyone besides yourself. Paranoia Agent takes a cold and deep look into the human spirit and psyche through analysis of a series of characters. In this psychological and detective-themed anime series from the famed mind of anime director Satoshi Kon, Satoshi Kon holds much of my respect as a director, being responsible for some of my favorite animated films of all time, such as Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika, and Perfect Blue, which is arguably one of his most popular and impactful films. It also shares a lot of the same themes as Paranoia Agent in terms of being focused heavily on psychological themes. All of these films, including the series Paranoia Agent, which airs in 2004, were animated by Studio Madhouse, which Satoshi Kon actually resided as a staff director. I find Satoshi Kon's directing style to be very unique, and at times it's even considered a bit avant-garde, typically bringing a character's perspective of the world to life through the power of animation, strong use of symbolism, metaphors, and utilizing surreal and at times disorienting storytelling styles. Nowhere is this more apparent than in his anime series Paranoia Agent. While watching the show, it seemed that the more the mystery unfolded, the more questions I had. My eyes were constantly glued to the screen, and my mind was filled with thoughts trying to decipher the near endless interpretations one could have in regards to the ambiguous symbolism and surreal scenarios present in the 13 episodes that make up the show. Paranoia Agent showcases the infamous shonen bat who is terrorizing the residents of Musashino City, flying around on his rollerblades and beating people down with a golden baseball bat. The assailant seems impossible to catch, much less understand. His first victim, the well-known yet timid character designer Tsukiko Sagi, is suspected of orchestrating the attacks, believed only by her anthropomorphic pink stuffed animal, Marumi. Tsukiko is just one of Shonen Bat's many victims. As Shonen Bat continues his relentless assault on the town, detectives Keiichi Ikari and Mitsuro Manewa begin to investigate the identity of the attacker. However, more and more people fall victim to the notorious Golden Bat, and news of the assailant begins circulating around the town. Paranoia starts to set in as chilling rumors spread amongst the adults and children alike. Will the two detectives be able to unravel the truth behind Shonen Bat, or will the paranoia get to them first? When we take a look at how a Paranoia Agent episode is structured, I find it very similar to shows like Bakuno or Durarara, where there is an overarching plot, but each episode is somewhat self-contained, focusing only on a certain character or a group of characters. As the show progresses, we uncover the various connections between the characters and how the stories all connect. But in some cases, certain characters don't even really come into contact with each other, but you can still tie together their relations when looking at the bigger picture in terms of their struggles in life and when the Shonen Bat finally makes its vicious strike. The series starts out relatively simple. You follow two detectives as they try to connect all the pieces and solve who is causing these seemingly random acts of violence, but no matter how hard they try to connect all of the victims, they just can't seem to land on a solid motive for the perpetrator to act on. Each episode showcases a new victim, as I mentioned earlier, and between all of them, you start to notice that they all have some sort of negative aspect when it comes to their personality, such as being extremely delusional, very self-absorbed or selfish, or even having multiple personality disorder, as some examples of what we witness in the victims. As you can probably tell, most of the characters that we are introduced to in Paranoia Agent are by no means role models, and instead are very flawed, troubled people that are feeling the pressures of life slowly creeping in. I'm sure most can find something in relation to at least one of the characters that are shown in some way. The storytelling style is very much only focused on a singular victim in the episode's perspective, and it becomes difficult deciphering what is real and what is a lie, or simply their mind playing tricks on them. And it's this that makes the show so compelling for me, leaving a lot up to a viewer's interpretation of what events are actually occurring and what's going on. This is not a series I would recommend to most, or to anyone who sees themselves as having a short attention span or even a low mental capacity. You really have to be in the mood for a series like this. It can be a lot for the viewer to digest when trying to keep up with the constant repeating symbolism throughout the series. As I was watching the series online, I was seeing a lot of comments claiming that the show was boring, and I especially saw a lot of complaints on around episode 5, which at that point they capture what they think to be shonen bat, and most of the episode is from the supposed culprit's viewpoint, which is shown to be extremely delusional and plays out pretty much like a fantasy anime, which many claim stands out too much and kind of ruins the series. But the episode is very vital, I feel. I derived from my viewing that it really screams to the viewer like, hey, this guy is crazy and his story sounds unreliable, but so do all the other victims' experiences when retracing and revisiting the events that led up to their shonen bat encounters. But after their supposed capture of the famed shonen bat, it's not too long until they realize that the boy they have in custody is nothing more than a copycat, and soon the attacks turn into killings, and soon to be amplified as the apparent culprit is killed in his jail cell by what can only be explained as another shonen bat attack. Rumors spread of the shonen bat phenomenon, and people are dying left and right from seemingly nowhere. It's at this point in the series that I started to interpret these attacks as something more than just physical attacks happening in the world, realizing that the shonen bat epidemic is more of a metaphor for people's stress and daily struggles taking form and coming to life personified as this psychological monster. And it's really from this deduction that I don't believe shonen bat to truly be a physical force, just a representation of people's self-destructing paranoia kind of taking over and leading to cases of self-harm. A major reoccurring theme in this series is people's general lack of responsibility, shifting blame to anyone but themselves, claiming it's not their fault. And shonen bat offers the ultimate escape from any and all of their issues and stress. Many see it as a chance to finally be set free of their worries. Nowhere is this more apparent than in one of my favorite episodes involving a struggling anime studio during its troubled production. As we see rising tensions resulting from issues between the staff, from trouble cooperating as a team, and struggling to meet deadlines, we witness more and more of these staff members fall victim to shonen bat, as one by one the entire staff dwindles in numbers. I really believe that Satoshi Kon intended for a lot of this series to be some form of allegory for self-harm and the loss of life caused by it, which is still a very prevalent issue today in the world, especially in Japan, which is filled with people that are stressed out, overworking themselves, just looking for any kind of release or escape from their daily lives, probably viewing death as a way to run away from their issues. Near the end of the series, it is revealed that shonen bat originates from the first victim, Sakuki Gosagi, the character designer's mind, due to repressed childhood trauma of losing her dog Marumi, causing its death and blaming it on a shonen bat type character that she had made up as a lie, and shifting the blame from her. The Marumi mascot plays a big role in the series, being the catalyst of events in a way. Although unseemingly at first, it becomes a popular national entertainment icon that many turn to put their faith and enjoyment in, rivaling the fear and chaos caused by the shonen bat rumors. Interestingly though, the show frames the dependency on the mascot just as unhealthy as wishing upon the release of a visit from shonen bat. After all, it's just another delusional escape from reality, I find. The ending of the series, though, is a visible spectacle with impressive animation of the mascot Marumi taking the form of a destructive black ooze in an attempt to keep the inhabitants under its delusional control, eventually swallowing the city and its citizens whole, wiping the state clean. Setting in the sequence of events we've witnessed throughout the series back to the start, making for a very confusing and incoherent finale. While I can see why others might not be pleased with such an obscure ending that presents us with more questions rather than answers, I feel it does a good job of summing up much of what the series' true intentions are. Paranoia Agent was never trying to be a coherent story from start to finish. Its goal was to showcase people's fantasies and them trying to control their paranoia in everyday life. Although in a very dark and surreal way, oftentimes blurring the line between what is real and what isn't. I would highly recommend giving this anime a watch if you're a fan of Satoshi Kon's other brilliant works, especially Perfect Blue. And also, if you can share an appreciation for a storytelling style that doesn't spoon-feed its exact themes it's trying to convey. I also want to throw in that I got major vibes of the TV series Twin Peaks, specifically the most recent installment, Twin Peaks: The Return, which I find is David Lynch's magnum opus. It also really leaves a lot up to the viewer's interpretation. But again, I want to say this is not the most coherent anime, so I don't recommend it to most casual anime fans. Anyways, thanks so much for watching and hearing out my thoughts on this introspective and thought-provoking anime series. If you have any thoughts or your own personal interpretations about the series, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Thanks again. Peace out.